What If Season 2 is here, and we're going to be breaking down episode 1 and 2. We're going to be talking about the Easter eggs and references and what happened during both episodes. We'll start off with episode 1 and then go into episode 2, and I'll put timestamps down in the description so that you can just jump to which episode you want to watch. So first of all, in episode 1, it's titled What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps, which is an interesting change because this is another Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 What If, because it starts with the events of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, because we find out after seeing that someone took out Yondu in this dark dystopian world that Ronan actually betrayed Thanos this time, took him out, and took out Gamora, leaving Nebula for dead, floating in space, until Nova Prime saw her and saved her, giving her the second chance and to be a hero, like how the movie gave her that chance. However, this just happened way earlier, and they even comment multiple times that Nebula is looked down on for being a former member of the Black Order, which the Black Order is Thanos' children from the MCU. Just like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Ronan attacked Xandar, but instead of using all their ships as their shield, they actually had a planetary shield that locked their planet away for 50 years, removing the light and turning it into this dark dystopian world, which resembles Blade Runner a lot. However, in this world, while Nebula is investigating Yondu's death and trying to figure out what's going on, she ends up going to the casino where all the criminals are, where we have Groot, Drax, Korg, Meek, and Howard the Duck all making an appearance because Howard the Duck owns this casino on Xandar. And it turns out, after she was talking to Howard the Duck and Korg, out of all people, they find out someone is going after the planetary shield's source codes, which means someone's trying to open it up. So in order to protect those codes, she goes down to the device that runs it, and to do that she breaks out Yon-Rogg, who we saw in Captain Marvel, which was one of the villains of the movie, and also the one that had trained Carol Danvers to be one of their soldiers. So they have a cool prison escape, they go down to the device, and while she goes to download the codes, they call her an Omega-class cybernetic, which is a cool reference to showing how strong she is, but also it made me think of Omega-level mutants, which is what we see within the X-Men and all the super strong mutants that are with them. But during that scene, Yon-Rogg betrays her and takes the source codes and books it the hell out of there. Which my first thought while watching this was like, why would you trust Yon-Rogg? He's a Kree, he's the enemy. You literally got invaded by the Kree because of Ronan. Turns out Nebula just kept getting betrayed because Nova Prime was actually working with Yon-Rogg to open the planetary shield. All because Ronan would have kept Nova Prime in charge of Xandar after he took it over. And the way they did this was interesting too, because when the light went away from Xandar, the Nova Corps also went dark. Kind of referencing how they always say, see the light and follow the light. As soon as the light was removed, everyone kind of got corrupted. But during all this, Nebula goes to Howard the Duck, gets his help to take down Nova Prime, which in the end, they create the Guardians of the Galaxy with Korg, Meek, Groot, Howard, and Nebula being the leader on the team. So I thought that was pretty cool because we got this new Guardians of the Galaxy being formed without the other ones. And I'm kind of surprised Rocket wasn't in this, but I guess it was before Rocket met Groot. And during their suit up too, Howard the Duck puts on a bandana, which just makes him kind of look like Rambo. When they invade the Nova Corps headquarters, Groot slams a bunch of guys into the wall, just like how we did in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 when they invaded Ronan's ship. We also had Korg grab two guys and slam them on the ground, just like how Hulk did to Loki in the first Avengers movie. However, during all this, it turns out Nebula triple-crossed everyone because she knew already that Nova Prime was setting her up. She was told to do whatever means necessary to figure out this case, which is something that goes against their morals and their code for the Nova Corps. In the end, the shields close again because of the code she put in, killing Ronan. So she got her revenge on the guy that killed her sister and her father, and also saved Xandar. So a pretty cool episode showing Nebula rise up to be this hero, take on this leadership role, and really change the universe because now the Guardians is a completely different team. Ronan's not around, and neither is Thanos. So let me know what you thought about that episode. Let me know what other Easter eggs and references you noticed during it. But now let's go into episode 2, titled What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes? I honestly like this episode a lot more, mostly because it was an Avengers-centric episode, which this episode takes place in 1988, the same year Peter Quill gets abducted by Yondu, but instead of Yondu taking him in, he just takes him to Ego and follows his duty. However, the episode does start off with Kid Peter landing on Earth in New York in the same spot the first Avengers assembled in. And we actually saw the Watcher watching them in this episode, showing that this episode has an actual universal threat that's really going on. But after Peter lands on Earth, the Avengers have to assemble because there's some big alien threat that's come to attack them, even though it's just a kid. So they assemble at Project Pegasus, which we saw back in the first Avengers movie and Captain Marvel. Howard Stark and Peggy Carter are there. Hank Pym gets recruited for being Ant-Man, even though he's reluctant to do it because of what happened to Janet back in the war. Bill Foster gets recruited as Goliath. Then we have King T'Chaka's Black Panther. The Winter Soldier gets sent by Moscow, And Peggy Carter knows it's Bucky. Wendy Lawson, Mar-Vell gets recruited, and she has her Tesseract field ship. So collecting all the heroes that were around during this time period and making a team out of them, way before the Avengers actually were a thing. King T'Chaka references the vibranium gave Howard, which Howard then references Captain America's shield and how they lost it over the ocean, which is what happened to Captain America when he flew the plane into the ocean. The Avengers go against Peter Quill, just this kid trying to have fun at the fair, and he's pretty freaking OP with using Ego's power, being able to take the Avengers on with no problem, literally destroying everything. Goliath gets bigger than 21 feet during this, which in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he referenced that the tallest he ever got was 21 feet. So in this, he got bigger. And then we had Thor coming in for backup because it turns out Peter Quill had taken out the 9 realms and that Earth was the only one left. Asgard had already fallen. Thor had also found the Celestial Seed in Missouri in Guardians Galaxy Volume 2 is where the seed was once Ego activated it after stabbing Peter Quill. However, after the Avengers captured Peter Quill, it turns out this kid just wanted to go home. That's all he wanted to do. And of course, it only took another kid to show these adults what was really going on, because Hope bonded with Peter over their mom's love for music, even giving him her cassette player and helping him escape and get home. And the cage they had Peter in is the same type of cage they had Loki in the Avengers movie. And while Hope is trying to explain to the adults that Peter's just a kid trying to go home and talking about how Ego's just a bad father, and Howard Stark references blaming an absent father and that he gets it enough from his own son, referencing Tony Stark. But that all leads to Ego coming to the planet to finish the job, having King T'Chaka, Thor, and Goliath verse all these Ego dirt minions, and having a giant Ego come out as well, which of course they get easily overwhelmed because you have the celestial god fighting them, and none of them are celestials. But while that's going on, you have Winter Soldier getting ready to kill Peter, which is something I did not see coming, but it does make sense. You got the assassin here being instructed by the motherland to take down the celestial being. However, it's a good thing you had Howard being able to intercept the comms, know it's Bucky, and get through to him by talking about his best friend Steve Rogers. So that was a great scene, unlocking Bucky, so he's no longer the Winter Soldier, and he's able to somewhat break his programming. We also had Hank in the scene connect with Peter about losing someone that they're close to them, because Peter lost his mom, and Hank and Hope lost Janet. Like a very nice, fatherly moment of Hank being a good dad and trying to be there for this kid who had just lost his mom literally 6 months before. But then that leads into a pretty cool moment where Hank and Peter come in for the interception, take the seed, and take down Ego, having Peter find out Ego killed his mom, and also calling himself Star-Lord because that's what his mom called him. Just like how in Volume 1 of Guardians of the Galaxy, the letter we saw at the very end of the movie is calling Peter Star-Lord, showing that that's where he got his name, is from his mom. So just a nice defeat of Ego. Peter taking him out again, just like how he did in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, just in a different way. Then having a nice celebration back at Hank's home, with Mar-Vell giving Goose to Hope and Peter, which showing is Hank's kind of taking in Peter. It also doesn't look like Peter lost his powers at the end of this, like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because they end up taking Peter and Hope with them on this Avengers level mission into space, because Thor has to go and help all the planets Ego took over, and the other Avengers are going to be joining him. So it's kind of like an Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy team up for this what if. And this is because Ego's main body is still alive. So in order to stop him, they have to go to where he is and take him out, just like how they did in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So in the end, this definitely changes the MCU as well, because with Asgard destroyed, Loki never invades Earth in 2012. With the Winter Soldier no longer brainwashed at the end, Howard Stark never gets killed, changing Tony Stark's story, as well as changing T'Challa's story, because King T'Chaka never dies, because King T'Chaka's on this team and has better relations with the US government. Plus, because Hank Pym stays Ant-Man, Scott Lang most likely never becomes Ant-Man, and then on top of it, Hope probably becomes the Wasp way sooner. And because Peter Quill is now with Hank Pym and the rest of these Avenger characters, the Guardians of the Galaxy may not form the same way. And since Mar-Vell is working with these guys, Carol Danvers never gets turned into Captain Marvel during the big explosion with the plane and the Tesseract. This episode had some pretty cool stuff. I really liked what they did, and I like seeing the different characters taking on the Avenger roles, and also just seeing what heroes we had during that time. And of course, Thor's easiest one to throw in there because of how old he is. What did you think of this episode? Were there any Easter eggs or references you noticed that I might have missed? And thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my Marvel videos. And with that, I guess I'll talk to you later when we watch another episode of What If?